War. War never changes.
Thrown into a literal wasteland of death, destruction, and questionable life choices. I've got 100 days to uncover why Fallout is so beloved. What have I been missing out on? This is my first step into the chaos. What could possibly go wrong? Grab a Nuka-Cola and some stim packs because it's gonna be a bumpy, but hopefully nostalgic ride. Or at least an entertaining one. My journey starts off by kicking and screaming. Mostly screaming. Sounds like my life. Born to 2 loving parents.
Catherine, she's in cardiac arrest. Start compression. Get the baby out of here. Move, move. 1,000. 2, 1,000. Come on.
Well, make that one
Hang
loving
on.
parent. After my mother's untimely demise, Dad stepped in, juggling heartbreak and parenting like a champ. Looks like we're leaning into the half Batman backstory kind of vibe here. By age 1, I'm already leaving chaos in my wake. I picked up a cardboard book that would shape my future. Strength and endurance? Yes, please. Charisma? Let's sprinkle some of that in there. Intelligence? Let's just say Dad's genes helped me scrape this by. Dad, the ever-sentimental type, shared my mom's favorite Bible verse. I was still trying to figure out goo goo gaga, so I didn't know what this meant. Suddenly, life fast-tracked forward, and I was 10 years old. At my birthday party, courtesy of Vault 101, my Pip-Boy was shiny and new, but the party took a turn when the cake robot decided I looked better wearing my dessert than eating it. Grandma saved the day with a sweet roll. Butch wanted it, of course.
Give me that sweet roll you got from Old Lady Palmer.
I handed him the empty wrapper.
You think you're funny?
Amata thought my smooth defiance was hilarious. Me and Amata had a thing. At least, I thought so. Dad had one last gift waiting. A sparkling BB gun he made from Butch's stolen property. Sweet revenge for a lifetime of tunnel snake nonsense. I practiced shooting radroaches and lined up for a photo with Dad. This picture would mean more later than I ever realized. At 16, I faced the infamous GOAT, the Vault's aptitude test. Faking sick didn't fool Dad, so out I went, but not before snagging the bobblehead off of his desk to give myself +10 in medicine. Instead of answering the questions, I convinced the teacher to let me skip it entirely and pick my own skills. Vault education at its finest. Then came the drama. I was sleeping peacefully and life woke me. And by life, I mean Amata woke me. She was panicked. She said Dad had left the vault, and the overseer, well, he was blaming me. Oh, and Jonas? Dead. Fantastic. Amata gave me essentials, a pistol she stole from her father, some bobby pins, and the directions, and I bolted out of there. Along the way, Butch begged me to save his mom from radroaches. I smashed the bugs, grabbed a tunnel snake's jacket off of him, and then left with zero sympathy. Sorry, not sorry. I still disliked Butch. The chaos escalated as I raided the overseer's office, hacked his terminal, and learned that the outside world wasn't as deadly as our vault leader claimed. Radiation? Sure. Bad weather? Yeah. But the overseer's fear-mongering was overkill. I hit a hidden switch, opening a massive vault door. Amata said goodbye. No kiss, just solid friend zone moment, and I ran for my life. The wasteland hit me like a truck. Blinding sun, cracked roads, and abandoned cars stretched as far as I could see. Welcome to my new life. My first level up came quickly. I boosted up my skills and picked a Black Widow perk, which let's just say would pay off in dividends later. I stumbled into a ramshackle house and met Silver, a woman desperate to escape somebody named Moriarty. She offered me caps to lie for her, but things went south. A little too south. Let's just say I left with her caps, most of her stuff, and my conscience slightly bruised. Further down the road, I arrived at Megaton, a town built around a live nuclear bomb because that's a great idea. Lucas, the sheriff, greeted me. He also warned me about Moriarty and the giant bomb in the middle of the town. Sure, no big deal. We'll just casually live next to the next doomsday. That's fine. Upstairs at Craterside Supply, I met Moira Brown, a vault dweller fangirl with the enthusiasm of a caffeinated squirrel. She roped me into helping her write the Wasteland Survival Guide, bribing me with an armored jumpsuit. First assignment, testing radiation levels. Moira wanted me to come back extremely irradiated, so I stood next to the bomb and drank the water. I hit 600 rads of pure glow-in-the-dark energy in no time at all. Then I stumbled back to Moira practically melting into the ground, and wouldn't you know it, I developed a weird limb regeneration mutation. Useful? Sure. Creepy? Absolutely. Moira was thrilled. She patched me up with chems and sent me off to scavenge supplies from the Super Duper Mart. The trip there was not uneventful. My first encounter was with a giant worker ant, and it ended in 3 solid shots. Then a vicious dog tried to eat me for lunch. Not today, bucko. I also bumped into a morat, ugly little thing, and I dispatched it while trying not to gag. The Fallout wildlife? 10 out of 10 weird looking. and terrifying, but I had no idea what I was about to get myself into. Finally, I reached the super duper mart. And creepy doesn't even begin to describe the vibes here. Dark, ominous, and full of raiders, inside and out. Except for outside it was dead. Some ominous foreshadowing here, but there were some friendly ghouls. Ghouls? What the heck is that? Turns out, ghouls are people who got hit really hard with the bombs and lived to tell the tale about it. We find out a lot more about this later. Inside, I crept into the aisles with my pistol drawn. Raiders were everywhere, lurking like it was a post-apocalyptic Black Friday sale. My stealth didn't really get me very far, and one raider popped out of nowhere. I panicked and half my health was gone before I could react. A quick stim pack later, I was back in action. Between dodging raiders, I found a jackpot on one of the corpses, a combat shotgun, and trust me, this thing was love at first shot, at least when I use it. Then I found the food that I was meant to find, and I hacked into a terminal, unlocking the pharmacy. I hit the real mother lode here. Medical supplies, ammo, and a shiny Nuka-Cola Quantum? Shiny things are always good, right? Maybe I'm the ADHD squirrel. Oh, and there was a robot. I freed it with another terminal. It stomped off muttering something about maintenance. Friend or foe, I had no idea, so I kept my distance and stayed in the corner while looting in peace. By the time I cleared the place, it was night. I limped back to Megaton, bruised but victorious. Day 1 in the Wasteland was officially over, and if I had known what was coming, I might have just gone back to the vault. Who knows? It might be better there. But hey, that's the Wasteland for you. Day 2 started bright and early with me at Craterside Supply. Moira greeted me with her usual, "You're my favorite test subject" energy. I may have lied and said I found nothing at the Super Duper Mart for easy experience, but guilt hit me. So I came clean. Moira didn't care and even let me keep the stuff I found. Chill, as always. Her next brilliant idea was scouting on a minefield. Because yes, risking my life and limb for research is totally reasonable. Well, beggars can't be choosers. I just left a vault with nothing. So I set off, using the Pip-Boy to fast travel. Only to misclick and end up in Springvale. Classic me. Springvale was the usual wasteland fare. Ruins, rubble, despair. But one building stood out to me. Springvale Elementary, where dreams go to, I imagine, die at this point? It didn't look occupied. It wasn't a school anymore. It was a house of horrors. Inside, I was greeted by rotten flesh, hanging corpses, and children's skeletons stuffed into cages. This was not a friendly PTA meeting. Creeping through the crumbling halls with my bat in hand, every creak made my pulse quicken. Then I met a bandit. One swing and lights out. The place was crawling with them, but my new best friend, the combat shotgun, made quick work of their heads. Mwah! Morbid? Yes, but extremely satisfying. Then I found the real nightmare. In one of the cages, surrounded by dusty books, were tiny skeletons. Children. My heart sank, but I pressed on, determined to see this twisted place through. Cue the basement of Nope. A staircase led down, because, of course, good things always happen in creepy freaking basements. I hit a locked door, a level 100 lockpick requirement, because this game loves to remind me how underleveled I am despite being minutes into it. Luckily, the next raider and her guard dog were kind enough to drop me a basement key. Key in hand, I opened the door and found a hole? No. Not a hole. A massive cave, crawling with dog-sized ants. Ugh, creepy. The ants wasted no time swarming me, biting me, and pinning me up against the wall. My health plummeted, but I was not going out without a fight. Shotgun blazing, I splattered the bugs, leaving behind ant guts and ant-shaped trauma. Deeper in, I found a dead body sprawled over something shiny. Respectfully nudging the corpse aside, I claimed my prize. An Army Spec Ops training manual? With nothing left to loot and my patience for bugs at 0, I climbed back to the surface and straight into an ambush. A group of bandits thought they could take me out. Cute. The building's wreckage conveniently aligned with the ground, so I made my escape by stepping on the roof in what they call a stylish exit. By the time I hit the wasteland again, the moon was up, and everything looked creepier in the dark. I dragged myself back to Megaton, and still crawling through my nightmares. With nothing to do but sleep, I crashed hard. Okay, so I slept in till 2 p.m. Don't judge me. Feeling semi-human again, I headed to Craterside Supply. No, I hadn't touched the minefield yet, but that didn't stop me from convincing Moira that I had. Her next experiment? She wanted me to intentionally cripple all my limbs. Great, sounds totally safe. But first, I wanted some answers about my dad. In the saloon where I was meant to see Moriarty, a shady guy in a pinstripe suit waved me over. This guy reeked of bad news, and his pitch? Rig the bomb in the middle of Megaton to explode. Casual Thursday stuff to him. Feigning interest, I sweet-talked him using a Black Widow perk into handing over the fusion pulse charge, pretending I would help him. Spoiler, I wouldn't. He told me to meet him at Tenpenny Tower after the job was done. Yeah, sure, buddy. I will keep that town in mind. After ditching Mr. Creepy, I finally tracked down Moriarty. Not winning any popularity contests, this guy barked orders at a ghoul before turning to me with a look of recognition. Turns out he knows who I am. Moriarty claimed that I had not lived in the vault my whole life, and according to him, I was born on the outside and even spent time with the Brotherhood of Steel. Excuse me? Dad lied? No. That was hard to swallow. Playing along, I tricked Moriarty into spilling more. Dad had passed through here recently, headed towards something called Galaxy News Radio. Before leaving, I borrowed more information by hacking Moriarty's computer. He conveniently left his password in a nearby cabinet, because apparently that's what people do around here. The files confirmed that Dad's story was not as simple as I thought. Apparently, we were outsiders before Vault 101 became home. Thanks, Dad, I guess you did lie. But why? Why would he lie? Outside, I had a premonition. I handed the fusion charge to the sheriff and told him the plan to blow up the town. Sims went off to confront the guy, but the guy shot him. Thankfully, it was just a daydream. I decided not to tell the sheriff about it and went and dealt with Burke myself. With one clean shot to the head, his scheming days were over, the town was safe, I got karma, the sheriff was alive, and I have a pre-war business suit now. Fancy and functional, and it comes in handy later. Feeling like Megaton's unofficially declared hero, I decided to help Walter fix the town's busted pipes. I boosted up my repair skills to make quick work of the leaks. The first pipe, second pipe, and third pipe, all fixed. And nobody seemed to care, except for Walter. Thankfully, the water system was working again. Oh, and the bomb? I finally disarmed it, earning a house key, and a very shocked reaction from Lucas. Finding the house took some wandering because it was basically a treehouse. I discovered my new best friend, a robot butler. Drinks, jokes, and haircuts? I think I'll skip on the haircuts considering what happened with my birthday cake. Next up, Moira's broken limb experiment. Naturally, I took a logical route and just jumped off the roof. With a busted leg and bruised ego, I hobbled back to her. She was thrilled, patched me up, and immediately sent me after Mirelurks. Lovely. Before tackling these nightmares, I grabbed her mole rat repellent and set off for the wasteland. That's when a panic kid, Brian Wilkes, runs up to me. His town, Great Itch, had been wiped out, and he begged me to find his dad. Another quest from my growing to-do list. Finally, it was mole rat time. Moira claimed her stick would make the rats run. But nope, they dropped dead instantly. The repellent was more like instant death spray. Raiders in the tunnels were not thrilled to see me, and a turret decided to ruin my day. After clearing out the sewer and bonking all the rats, I returned to Megaton. My new house offered free healing via the magical power of naps, and day 3 ended with me questioning every choice that brought me here. On day 4, I proudly reported back to Moira that her mole repellent worked, leaving out the part where it worked too well. She was very thrilled for her non-violent extermination, and she sent me on another quest. The Mirelurk lair now. I had to set up a camera to prove that the Mirelurks were sophisticated. Moira, nothing that sounds like a garbage disposal gargling nails qualifies as refined, but fine. As long as you pay me. Back to the wasteland I went, where mistake number 1 was stepping into irradiated water. Mistake number 2, meeting a Mirelurk. Picture Larry the Lobster from SpongeBob, but bloated, angry, and part of a biker gang. Bullets barely scratched it, but thanks to a lucky rock glitch, I survived. Until it broke free. Fast and deadly? Check. Regrets? Many. Sneaking near their nests revealed piles of eggs and piles of human remains. Moira's sophisticated creatures were oversized trash compactors. After a quick healing detour to Megaton, I steeled myself and dove back in. This time I found a tunnel. The stench hit me like a punch to the face. Radiated water, rotting corpses, and it was a regular 5-star dining experience for them. While sneaking, a Mirelurk decided I stared at it for too long and called up backup. Panic mode activated. I bolted through the lair, desperately searching for a nest. I found one, shoved the camera in it, and bolted back to the exit door. But I went to the wrong one and it was locked. Naturally, the switch was surrounded by the crabs, and I didn't see it, and I ran back to the place I came. Finally, I left the creepy tunnel and went back to Megaton. Moira greeted me like I hadn't just survived a crustacean hell. Mission complete. But her next request is that I go to Rivet City, which is way above my pay grade for now. That night, I teleported back into the wasteland and immediately got shot by something called an Enclave soldier. Fancy name, I guess. My grenade left him at 1 HP, classic gamer luck, but the second finished him off. Jackpot! However, my celebration didn't last. 2 Mirelurks wandered over to ruin my day. And I'm dead. I reloaded, came back, died again. The Enclave soldier's aimbot accuracy didn't help. Attempt 3, grenades missed, Mirelurks swarmed, and I hit death count 4. Eventually, I gave up and limped back to Megaton to heal up the pain. On day 5, I figured Rivet City could wait. Instead, I went to Great Itch to find the kid's missing dad. Spoiler alert, worst decision ever. Not far into town, I met fire ants. Fire-breathing ants. Is this post-apocalyptic world set in freaking Australia? My health bar sure thought so. After getting roasted like a freaking marshmallow, I noped back to Springville for a detour. Mole rats? Easy. Rad scorpions? Not so much. Its stinger was bigger than my head. Somehow I survived and looted a slave map off of a body, and then stumbled into a place called Big Town. Big Town apparently was a refugee for little lamplighters. Don't know what that is. And they had their own problems. All of their friends were kidnapped. Naturally, they turned to me because apparently I'm the hero in this story. Who knew? I decided to go to that minefield that Moira wanted me to go to, that I lied to her about. But navigating the mines at night, not my brightest move. First explosion, classic. Second explosion, a car decided to combust for no reason and radiation hit me like a freight train. The stim packs barely kept me standing. Frustrated and irradiated, I left the area for daylight exploration. Nearby, I found Germantown Police HQ, the alleged location of Big Town's hostages. The eerie quiet outside was both a relief and slightly unsettling. Inside, a terminal confirmed that the officers had in fact been killed and eaten. Lovely. Locked doors stopped me from going any further, so I put this on my to-do later list. Is there anything I can do in this game? Finally, fast traveling brought me to Dukov's place, a busted-up mansion where Dukov, the self-proclaimed king of sleaze, lived with a harem. After deciding the world would be better without him, he met an untimely demise. Yes, I lost karma. Do I care? Not really. He's a creep, and his house was a complete letdown. A locked room led to nothing but a few bullets. The upstairs loot wasn't even worth my trouble. Moving on, my wasteland stroll turned intense when super mutants showed up. The first one, I managed with my trusty combat shotgun. The second one, a brute with a minigun. What the heck is that? I played peekaboo behind a wall until it dropped, but my inventory, overloaded as always, forced me to ditch the minigun. Next stop, the underground metro station. Irradiated, musty tunnels. These had "bad idea" written all over them, but I pushed on. A feral ghoul greeted me. Easy to kill but unsettling. Apparently, feral ghouls are actually ghouls that turned feral. So these people who got hit by these bombs and lived, eventually they turned feral and eat people. Wonderful. Deeper in, I found a glowing ghoul that exploded radiation like a nuke on me, and by the time I dropped it, my radiation poison had spiked. My max health bar was looking tragic. Thanks, glowing dude. The deeper I went, the worse it got. Flooded tunnels, relentless ghouls, a freaking creepy skeleton on a bed. The room was so irradiated I couldn't stand it for more than a few seconds. Sometimes survival means knowing when to leave, so I noped out, grabbing a Chinese army spec manual as a consolation prize before I left. Emerging topside, I was greeted by, you guessed it, another super mutant. I managed to take it out, but my health bar was hanging on by a sliver. Wasteland life was rough. I limped back to Megaton for the millionth time to heal up and sort through my loot. Because of the time it took to heal and travel back, by the time I returned to the metro, it was night again. Lovely. Nighttime in a creepy metro? What could go wrong? Boiler alert, everything. Apparently, the place had been overrun by clones of my ex. Fantastic. And just like my ex, I had to tiptoe around everything, because it was all one wrong step away from exploding in my face. Just to add a little spice, a super mutant decides to join my party. Thankfully, these run-ins don't leave me limping back to Megaton for the 5th healing nap of the hour. Small victories. With nothing but crickets for company, I continued through the desolate streets, soaking in the eerie silence. Until the super mutant rudely interrupted my symphony. How inconsiderate of him. By now, I was slowly learning which guns I despised. Exhibit A, the sawed-off shotgun. It hits like a marshmallow launcher, reloads slower than me on a Monday morning, and is about as useful as a chocolate teapot. After what felt like a year, I finally took down the mutant. His body flopped dramatically in a suspicious-looking gap. Now, could I get back up if I went down there? Probably not. Did I jump in anyway? You know I did. Well, spoiler alert, I can't get out. Looks like I'm taking the scenic route now. As they say, when life gives you lemons, fight another super mutant. Naturally, another brute spotted me the second I jumped down. With my health already in the don't squeeze too hard or you'll die zone, I employed advanced combat tactics, hiding behind a pole like a coward. You call it shame. I call it strategy. I threw a frag grenade, a miracle of miracles that actually worked, crippling the brute's legs. And then, with the confidence of somebody who has forgotten how grenades usually work for me, I launched another one. This time, it sent his now dead body flying like a meat piñata. Just getting from point A to point B was pure pain. These brutes seemed equipped with miniguns or rifles that rained like bullets during monsoon season. I lobbed another grenade, but it missed, leaving me scrambling for my stim pack, muttering colorful words under my breath. After patching myself up, I tried again, and this one, it hit, but it barely scratched him. Frustrated, I decided to throw caution and common sense to the wind and go after him directly. Why do these mutants get aimbots? Every shot they take hits me, while I can aim dead on and somehow still miss. Did my Pip-Boy install come with Stormtrooper Edition accuracy? Finally, after an eternity and several poorly aimed bullets, the brute was down. He was guarding a ramp that looked climbable, but naturally it wasn't. Fallout, where ramps are decorative. After finding another way up, I discovered his loot was trash. No minigun, just an assault rifle. He did all of that damage to me with an assault rifle. Whatever. Standing on high ground, I realized just how many of these jerks were swarming the area. Tons of them. I began picking them off one by one, but their relentless bullet spray left me teetering on the edge of death several times. By the time I finished off the last mutant, I was practically held together by duct tape and sheer determination. Looting their bodies yielded me slim pickings. I stumbled upon a locked trunk that I couldn't open, classic Fallout, and a book that promised to boost my big gun's damage. Progress. As I prepared to leave, another brute emerged. This place was basically a super mutant infestation. After a tense fight, I found another assault rifle. Why do these things make me feel like they're death machines while mine feels like a tickle stick during pillow fights? The mystery remains unsolved. Exploring further, I opened a preservation chamber and found a skeleton clutching a book of science. Thanks, buddy. That's not much, but I'll take it. As the sun rose for day 8, I wandered aimlessly until I found myself standing at the entrance of yet another tunnel. This one looked dingier than usual. And naturally, it was overrun by ferals. Because of course it was. Deeper into the tunnel, I stumbled across a hole leading to what I could only describe as a ghoul's nest. Nothing screams safe and welcoming quite like gaping pit filled with ominous shadows and the promise of terror. But moving on, it didn't take long for the roamers to notice me, and after a brief tussle, I managed to take them out and venture deeper. It was like a mouth threatening to swallow me whole, so very, very inviting. And no, I don't want to be here, as I repeatedly reminded myself of this. Oh boy. This looks ominous. Oh god. Oh, I don't want to go down here. 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 I don't like this. Okay, it's radiated. That's great. That's wonderful. Oh god, what is attacking me from behind? Oh, come on. You do a lot more damage than I expected. Midway through fighting the ghouls, I accidentally activated a stealth boy. Well, that was a waste. Thankfully, after killing the last ghoul, I leveled up. So at least something went right here. For the level, I dumped it into lockpicking, small guns, and sneaking. I also picked Gun Nut, which increased my small gun and repair skills. Not that I know how to repair anything yet, and probably won't for a while, but baby steps. The nest seemed to go on forever, and in its deepest recesses, I found a random computer. What was it doing down here? No clue. But I couldn't do anything with it, so it might as well have just been an expensive paperweight. After finishing off the last of the ghouls, I finally clawed my way back to the surface. The fresh air didn't last long, and peace was short-lived. Out in the open, a brute armed with a weapon I hadn't seen before showed up. Instead of taking on Brutus Maximus, I noped my way in a different direction, wandering aimlessly until I came across a tower structure with a terminal labeled Washington Monument Security Terminal. Like most things in this game, it required a key. Fallout really is committed to the whole look, don't touch aesthetic. As I turned to leave, it hit me. Was this Washington, D.C.? Was that the White House? While pondering my life choices, a friendly blip popped up on my Pip-Boy. Intrigued, I wandered over to meet Willow, a named ghoul who, brace yourself, didn't try to eat me. Shocking, I know. She gave me big gob vibes. You know, the one back in Megaton. Except she had more opinions. A lot more. She hated humans, but I got a free pass for some reason, maybe because I have a not a total jerk energy. She loathed the Brotherhood of Steel, which sounded familiar. Oh yeah, Moriarty mentioned them when spilling the tea about my dad. Still no idea what that's about. Willow threw in some chatter about Talon mercenaries too. Never heard of them, but given my luck, we'd probably meet soon. With a wave goodbye to my new ghoul buddy, I pressed into the Museum of History. Spoiler, things get real weird. Stepping into the museum was like stepping into a haunted house, except this haunted house had dinosaurs. Every dinosaur exhibit in here felt like it was watching me. I was just waiting for the right moment for it to come alive and chop my head off. They didn't. Let's be real, I still wasn't convinced that they wouldn't. The mammoth exhibit, on the other hand, was pretty cool. Props to Fallout devs for that one. I wandered deeper into the museum, and the vibes? Yeah, they nosedive straight into a horror movie. Sickly green lighting, flickering yellow bulbs, and a heavy dose of "you probably shouldn't be here" made me question every decision that led to this moment. It didn't take long for the ghouls to show up. Of course they did. And let's not forget the safe that I couldn't crack because my level's too low. It really loves reminding me that I'm underqualified for literally breathing on this planet. At one point, in what I thought was a brilliant survival move, I closed the door behind me so that I can keep ghouls out. I'm just gonna close the door. You guys can't open doors. You guys can open doors! Don't fucking do that to me. That's not fair. No, the door was literally closed. I closed it. If you rewind, it was literally closed. He opened the door. Because I went like that. He opened it. They can open doors. Which, mildly terrifying. Yeah, mildly terrifying indeed. Turns out ghouls can open doors. So they were human once after all. Oh, and somewhere in the chaos I finally figured out how to turn on my flashlight. It only took me 14 hours of stumbling around in the dark like an idiot. Better late than never, I guess. This is a repeating theme on my channel. I hope you're enjoying watching me fumble around like a fool. The deeper I ventured in, the more this museum seemed determined to crush my spirit. Locked safes, inaccessible terminals, they all popped up like bad ads on a free app, constantly reminding me that I was not tall enough to ride this ride. This was the moment I realized I need to max out my lockpicking and science skills. Why can't Fallout just work like Skyrim, where your skills will level up as you use them? Seriously, Bethesda? What gives? Gamer rage aside, I focused on the game I was playing. Maybe we can play Skyrim later on. Spoiler alert, for those sticking around long enough to hear this, you're in for a treat. I do plan on playing Skyrim on my channel. Modded too, for extra fun. Anyway, back to our current goals. After enduring what I call green hell, I decided enough is enough. I backtracked to the mammoth display, which suddenly felt like a Disney theme park compared to the radioactive nightmare I just escaped from. A small win for my sanity. I didn't stay in the museum long though, because there wasn't much left to explore. Or so I thought. Don't worry, we'll be back. On my way out, I realized it was late at night again. Why does it feel like I'm perpetually on Fallout's worst night shift? Five Nights at Freddy's Fallout edition, basically. Naturally, I headed back to Megaton for some much-needed sleep. I arrived early the next morning just as the sun was beginning to rise. After making a few trades and catching up with Moira, I set out to give Grey Ditch another shot. This time, I was determined to face the fiery little demons head-on. On the way there, I passed countless abandoned houses. The eerie quiet was broken by my first encounter, a lone, angry ant. Thankfully, it was small, so the fight wasn't too painful. From there, it turned into an ant-smashing extravaganza. While I still was occasionally getting lit up by these flame-spitting freaks, I was definitely improving on taking out the trash. Eventually, I did find the diner kid, Brian. He was hiding in the preservation chamber. Not the most comfortable shelter, but I've seen worse. After wandering around a bit more, I stumbled across a behemoth of an ant, the Fire Ant Warrior. This thing made all the others look like harmless bugs. It was massive, easily the size of a lion. But you know what they say, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. After an intense fight, I managed to take it down. After dealing with the Fire Ant Warrior, I headed back to Megaton. One long nap later, okay, maybe not a nap, a full day later, I woke up on day 11 at 9 o'clock at night. Yeah, let's not talk about my sleep schedule. Wandering through the wasteland, I stumbled across a power station. Curiosity got the better of me, so I decided to check it out. Inside, I found a blueprint for something called a railway rifle. Intrigued, I picked it up and ventured into the second building nearby. As soon as I entered, something felt off. Radiation started ticking up on my Pip-Boy, and I knew this wasn't going to be a fun time. Opening the door revealed my new worst enemy, a glowing ghoul. Yikes. This one was different, stronger, angrier, and radiating energy like it just stepped out of a reactor meltdown. I barely managed to scrape by with a sliver of health left, only for the game to crash as I defeated it. What a jerk. Loading back in, I faced this glowing one again. Round 2, buddy. After an epic battle, I somehow managed to blow myself up with my own bombs. The classic kitty move. Did I ever tell you guys the first time I played Halo with my ex-boyfriend and his best friend? Needless to say, I didn't know what the trigger did until I sent a sticky grenade launching into the foot of my ex-boyfriend, blowing him and his friend up in friendly fire. I warned them not to give me explosives. Anyway, after a lot of frustration and running into more locked computers and safes that I wasn't skilled enough to open, I decided this place was not worth the hassle. With nothing left but radiation poisoning and a bruised ego, I left the power station behind, unhappy that it wouldn't give me its secrets. Maybe one day when I'm stronger and slightly less prone to self-destruction, which could be never. Maybe we'll come back. As I walked, the pitch dark night gradually gave way to early morning of day 12. In the distance, I spotted an old, decrepit barn. Supplies might be hidden there, right? Inside, I found a scavenger. He had taken over the barn along with his loyal dog. Now normally, this would be the part where I kill the guy, clear out the place, and walk away with all the loot. But this wasn't just any barn. It had a pupper. A very good pupper. He had some truly tempting loot. The kind of stuff that would have made my wasteland life infinitely easier, but every time I considered taking it, the dog looked at me with those big trusting eyes and I just couldn't. The doggo was just doing his job. Who am I to mess with a hardworking good boy? Sometimes, even in the chaos of the wasteland, you have to have principles. My principles? Don't mess with good doggos. And I left the barn behind. Loot untouched. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm sure I'll regret this when I run out of stim packs or ammo, but you know what? My moral high ground feels pretty good right now. After searching a few nearby houses, I stumbled upon an unowned bed. Karma must have paid off big time, and this was perfect for sleeping off my injuries from the previous explosive encounter at the power plant. Refreshed and ready to face the wasteland again, I was not prepared for what popped up on my radar next. A friendly blip, glowing bright green, and it wasn't the only green thing in my screen. This was unexpected. My first thought the game was glitched, but no, it wasn't. This is Uncle Leo, a friendly super mutant. Yeah, you heard me right. He was just casually punching bugs. He was as shocked as I was that I didn't try to shoot him immediately, and honestly, yeah, same. A super mutant being friendly, this guy was full of surprises. Apparently Uncle Leo didn't like killing humans, and he'd been exiled by his kind. We got to talking, he told me he was on a quest for finding life, and his current plan was wandering the wasteland, crushing bugs, and reflecting on his existence. Surprisingly a deep guy. When I asked where the name Uncle Leo came from, he admitted he didn't know. Maybe it was from his name before. Before? Now that word caught my attention. Uncle Leo explained the super mutants weren't born. They were created. Hearing this made my heart sink. He mentioned how his kind and scientists tried to make more of them, and it hit me right in the feels. He talked about a building that he came from, and I promised myself one day I would find that building and put an end to this suffering. After bidding Uncle Leo farewell, I watched him shuffle off into the wasteland, still punching bugs. What a charming guy. Continuing my journey, I spotted an enemy blip on my Pip-Boy. It was another one of those Enclave attack robots, but this one's name was Mr. Gutsy. Naturally, I whipped out my sniper rifle and whittled it down. Turns out, though, snipers don't do much against the robots, but you know what does? A sledgehammer. And smashing it to bits was oddly satisfying. I came across an abandoned army base and took full advantage, sleeping on a bedroll to recover and raiding the place for supplies. It was a treasure trove of random loot. But the age-old question remained. Why do none of the skeletons in this world have clothes? Fallout mysteries, I tell you. Further along, I found a barn. This one was completely abandoned, and jackpot, I looted everything I could. While exploring, I noticed a suspicious door in the distance. Naturally, I had to check it out. Opening it revealed a warm welcome, scrawled on the wall. Charming. As I stood there taking in this heartfelt message, I started getting shot at. The raiders were using tower positions to rain down bullets on me. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't hit them back. Not fair. I had to retreat. Finding refuge in a nearby chain-link fence base allowed me to sneak behind enemy lines, where I promptly destroyed a protectron guarding the area. Unfortunately, the base door was locked tight with a high-level lockpick requirement. Once again, Fallout was reminding me of my limitations. After taking out 2 more protectrons, I raided a small house nearby. Entering cautiously, I was jump-scared by yet another protectron, but it went down quickly. On the bed, I found a gun and bullets book and took it. In the basement, that's where things got a little interesting. Downstairs, I found evidence of a struggle, a dead wastelander next to a pile of old-world money and bottle caps. Among the haul was an Army Spec Ops training manual and a stealth boy. The real treasure was inside the safe, a big guns bobblehead. This instantly boosted my big gun skill by 10 points. One item had me scratching my head. Fort Constantine launch codes. I had no idea what I just picked up, but I had a feeling it'd come into play later. Sadly, there was a locked door that required a key I didn't have. Maybe this mystery would have to be solved another day. Heading back into the wasteland, I climbed a mountain and encountered my first Brotherhood outcasts. They were friendlies, or so I thought. Tempting fate, I decided to blur the line between friend and foe by tossing down a landmine. One of them stepped on it and chaos ensued. After the resulting scuffle, I managed to send one flying with another landmine, though took some inflicted damage in the process. Again, classic kitty move. After taking them down, I located their bodies and found a ripper. Basically, a handheld saw. Cool in theory, but this mind-grating noise drove me insane. Hard pass. What really caught my attention was the Power Fist. My transformation into League of Legends Vi was complete. Armed with this punchy contraption, I was ready for whatever the Wasteland had in store. While wandering the Wasteland, I stumbled upon a group of slavers. Humanity, once again, proving why it sucks. One look at them was enough. No tolerance for this kind of behavior. I didn't even bother talking to the slaver, I just took his head off with a clean shot. His buddy followed shortly after. Among the casualties was Ramsey, a named NPC who was running this operation. I looted the slave pen key off of him, raided the camp for anything useful, and unlocked the pen to free a man trapped inside. With the slave safely on his way, I took a moment to reflect. The Wasteland may be cruel every now and again, but at least I get the chance to make it a little better. After freeing the slaves, I didn't have much of a plan, so I just walked in a straight line until the Wasteland itself told me to stop. I hit the map barrier. Like a sane person, I just started following the edge of the map. It wasn't long before I stumbled across a guy named Werner. He seemed a little intense. To avoid explaining why I was hugging the edge of the world, I told him I was following a radio message. It made me sound a lot more purposeful and less insane. He started talking about the pit, describing it as some kind of hellhole filled with slaves and misery. He had a plan though. He wanted me to put on the slave outfit and go in there disguised to help them out. Oh, sounds like a wholesome endeavor. But the whole dress up as a slave and sneak into danger thing? I didn't know if I was ready for that right now. After my chat with Werner, I decided it was time to head back to Megaton. By the time I arrived, it was day 13. After taking care of some business in Megaton, I ventured back into the Wasteland. Between fast traveling and wandering, night had fallen again, and now it was day 14. This time, I decided to head back into Grey Ditch again to deal with the ants once and for all. On my way, I came across a locked shack, but I was able to boost my skills up to the 50 lockpicking that I needed. After putting the gear on, I was able to break in. Inside, I found what appeared to be a lab, some weird equipment, and weird vibes. Among the clutter, I picked up a recorded password, naturally forgetting to listen to it, classic me. With nothing to do there, or assuming there was nothing to do there, I left. Don't worry, we'll be back here soon. I fast traveled back to Megaton to sell my loot and chat with Moira. No, Moira, I still haven't been to Rivet. I'll get there. I had doggos to pet, okay? Priorities. After some trading and general inventory management, we headed back out in the Wasteland again. I was ready to face whatever it threw at me next, or at least, I was pretending I was. Needless to say, I was not ready for what was about to be thrown at me. After playing over 20 hours, I finally learned how to repair my gear. Easily the biggest game changer of my entire journey so far. Every weapon I managed to fix felt like a small miracle, allowing me to carry more. Feeling confident, I headed back to the Mirelurk channel and uncovered a creepy area hidden under some monument. A special door allowed me to delve deeper into the weird place. And what I found below me is unsettling. It was some kind of Mirelurk breeding center. Scientists had apparently been living off these creatures down here, raising them and keeping them as breeding subjects for an endless food supply. Judging by the carnage, I'd say that plan backfired. It seemed the Mirelurks eventually broke free and flipped the script on their captors. The basement area was stuffed with butchering stations and refrigerators filled with Mirelurk meat. Trying not to gag, I decided I'd seen more than enough of this. A body named Ted confirmed my suspicions. He wrote that Mirelurks had indeed escaped captivity and posed a serious danger. Considering Ted's current status, I would guess he doesn't have to worry about that situation anymore. The whole place left me queasy, so I escaped the breeding facility before something else went wrong. As soon as I got out, I was ambushed by a group called the Talon Company. I had no idea why they were after me. I teleported to a new location and was immediately ambushed by another guy who said that I was a villain from the vault, and that they'd been looking for me because there was a price on my head. Excuse me? Who's paying for my death? Amada's father, maybe? I found out these guys are regulators, mercenaries hired to kill evil people. Apparently, my escapades had saddled me with some bad karma, and now I had a bounty. They hit me hard enough that I had to guzzle stim packs and eat some questionable food just to stay upright. There were quite a few of them, and they all came at me like rabid dogs. Eventually, I took them all down. One of them crippled my head with a bullet, and I had to inject myself with even more healing. Game logic, I guess. I looted a bounty notice off of them, and turns out there's 1,000 caps on my head. I briefly considered turning myself in because, let's be real, I could use that money. Anyway, good luck to anyone trying to get that bounty off of me. Apparently being cooped up in a vault my whole life has not stopped me from becoming a menace to society. I was starting to realize just how awful the metro system was. It had zero navigational logic, and every corridor looks the same. I lost track of which entrance I came in, and which one I was trying to go out of. Let's say I would not recommend this as a tourist destination. Sure enough, I circled around the same tunnel several times and emerged topside. I saw more clones of my ex and more super mutants, making me question my life choices. I got hammered by enemies on all sides, from up above and down below. My typical luck, I also managed to blow myself up with an explosive. Good job, me. After wiping out the entourage, I continued, somehow ending up at the Jefferson Museum, way ahead of schedule. I wasn't supposed to be here yet. The place was crawling with super mutants. So, I took a deep breath and started blasting. Despite arriving too early for most of the quest objectives, I cleared out the museum and leveled up, pouring my points into science and repair, and I grabbed the strong back perk to haul more loot around. Then, I realized that my stats were low because I'd become addicted to Med-X, so I would have to go see a doctor. I also discovered that my dad was supposed to be here. I found a poem that my mom loved on the wall, leaving me really confused, wondering who my father really was. A bad guy? A hero? Both? What's going on here? The fuse box I needed was here, but apparently the person carrying the fuses hadn't shown up yet. With nothing more to do, I left and headed back to Megaton to recuperate. The next day, I got my addiction cured by Doc Church. Apparently, I'd been close to Rivet City without realizing it, because on my next outing, I walked up to a big ship and got stopped by a guy named Harkness. That's when it clicked. I had accidentally stumbled into Rivet City. It turned out that 3 people technically owned this ship, but I really wasn't concerned about the politics. I wanted to know if my dad passed through. Inside, the place was absolutely massive. I found myself lost, and it took several in-game days to figure out where in the world I was. I think I emerged on day 19, I'm not quite sure. I found the science lab where folks said I might hear something about my dad, naturally snagging a bobblehead in there that boosted my intelligence by 1. Score! The scientists in the lab were arguing about some kind of runaway android, and apparently it had become sentient. I didn't care, they were too busy bickering to notice me, so I left. I did nothing for the entire 3 days but pickpocket everything. I stole everything I could find. This helped me level up all my skills, because I was getting tired of being locked out of doors and computers. I did manage to swipe a key to get into the military armory, which held a bunch of goodies that I might put to good use later. Overall, Rivet City seemed interesting, but I still didn't have any solid leads on my dad besides he passed through somewhere. How helpful. That still didn't give me much to go on, so I had no idea where dad was. Merging out of Rivet, it was like day 20, and I wasn't sure what I was gonna do, so I headed back to Megaton. Hey guys, thanks for watching thus far. If you've gotten this far, you're going to hear this message. This message is to tell you that I am experimenting with different types of videos on my channel, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. So, if you have any comments or questions or anything like that, leave them down in the comments below. If you've gotten this far, leave the word fabulous down in the comments below to let me know that you've gotten this far. And if you would like a part 2 of this video for me to finish it, leave that down in the comments. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.